ain't feeling sympathetic for the small guy. I don't think I'ma regret it when the cars fly. Ain't nothing really hitting like it used to. Gas wake the neighbors up like a rooster. It's a booster, help me see the future. I believe in karma and karma's future, so let's do some.
I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4.
Hello, everybody. Hi, AZ. Hi, Tony C. So nice to see you. Hey, Phil. And hello, Nemesis and Hades. So nice to see you. And hello, J Mortis. And hi, Meatball. It's okay. Just, you can hang back. It's all good. We're chilling. All right. I know I started a little bit early, but I know that my peeps over on the other side of the world, that this is a better time for you guys. Plus, the weather is about to get a little bit funky. So I would like to try to get through as much information as humanly possible. And hello, Pete Thomas. So this is not going to be like a really expansive Iran-Contra discussion or, Danny's life by any means. Hello, Occult Examiner. I'm basically going to walk you guys through, what was the crux of the rabbit hole for me. Because, yes, there are ties into Westchester County. How many ties do we need? And literally from Yonkers, right? Because, everybody has their opinions and feelings about Danny and about his work and what happened to him. I'm not here to really debate that because I also have some pretty strong feelings about it. And, I want to speak respectfully of him because he paid the ultimate price. And hello, ex-Mormon Psych and MDH 1970 and Martin Carson. So I'm going to run my Iran-Contra intro and then we'll get into it.
A few months ago, I told the American people I did not trade arms for hostages. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true, but the facts and the evidence tell me it is not.
Don't forget, we are literally out here fighting demons, y'all. And hello, mamas and papas. And hello, Michael Levine or Levine. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but hello from New Rochelle. Okay, so I've got someone from Westchester. I'm sorry that I talked so much about your county. I apologize. It's not disparaging the people of Westchester, but, it's just, there's a lot of weirdness out of there, right? So I don't really think that is disputable, but I know that some people would agree with me. And hello, Boo Beat. So nice to see you. And wait, hold on. Frickin' Posty's finally back to work. Oh, good. Good. I'm so glad. And hello, Miami Virtue. Can't stay for this one, unfortunately. Oh, well, terrible taste in music, but my work is good. Well, thank you so much, Miami Virtue. I appreciate it. That's old school 3-6 Mafia. That's not really old school 3-6. So I know, I have a strange taste in music. So let's go ahead and let's get into it because the crux of all of this was looking at Danny's younger sister who passed away, allegedly, in Haight-Ashbury, right? Which I think is really weird. Especially when we consider that, there's information out there that Michael Riconoscuito was an informant that was watching Abigail Folger and Charles Manson in Haight-Ashbury. So is there crossover with that? I don't really know. But then I just decided to, kind of do a family history genealogy. I guess that's what people would call it. And there's a lot of conflicting information and inaccurate information out there. And I just think that it's kind of weird. So let's go ahead and let's get going with the PowerPoint. Oh, wait, hold on one second. I hate Restream. Look, my little logo wasn't there and no one told me. It's okay. It doesn't really matter, but let's go. Okay. So for those who don't know, that is Danny Casolaro. This is the most notorious story, The Octopus, Secret Government, and the Death of Danny Casolaro. This is a really sweet photo with his son. And this is a photo that I just found yesterday on Ancestry of him in high school. I thought that that was a nice photo. So, and again, just touching on, this is a well-known story. Some people know it, some people don't, right? But the strange death of Danny Casolaro was the reporter who claimed to have found the missing link between Iran-Contra, the October surprise, and BCCI, a victim of a conspiracy or of conspiracy theories. If you're here, then you know what I think, and I think that there's a lot of evidence to support that he was murdered, but I digress. So, his sister, Elizabeth Ann Lisa Casolaro. So she was born on May 9th, 1953. And right here, it says in the death registry, it says that it was in Santa Barbara. Okay. And it says it up here as well. And I highlighted her spouse, James Edward Driscoll, because she did get married. And I thought that it was interesting that she didn't change her last name. Now, where did we get this information? This comes from Danny's files, because there is an abundance of Danny's files online. They are all in the Wayback Machine, and there are some FOIAs, but this is also included in his Wikipedia page. So it says right here, in March 1970, tragedy struck the family again. Casolaro's mother's house caught fire while Casolaro's younger sister Lisa was inside, babysitting Trey and Colby. Although no one was hurt, the fire destroyed the house. This event, however, foreshadowed a much greater tragedy for the Casolaro family. In 1971, Lisa Casolaro committed suicide by overdosing on drugs. Lisa, who was 18 years old at the time of her death, had left the family and moved to the Haight District in San Francisco. Her death devastated the family. Casolaro was particularly close to Lisa. When she was born, Casolaro, then 6 years old, became instantly enamored of her. He referred to her as my baby and fought with his older sister Mary Ellen over quote-unquote possession of Lisa. So, obviously, I think that that's really weird. The only thing that I was able to verify was the fire. I was able to find it in the Washington Daily News, Tuesday, March 31st, 1970. Fire guts McLean home, Dr. Joseph Casolaro. Okay, that's fine. And again, over here, this is his Wikipedia page discussing this. A younger sister, Lisa, died of a drug overdose in Haight-Ashbury in 1971. So, let's move. So, who did she get married to? Mr. James E. Driscoll. Obviously, trying to find as many records as possible, right? So, over here is the application for their marriage license in the Lansing State Journal, October 2nd, Friday, 1970, right there. He did get remarried. Oh, what year at with this one? I should have saved a little scrap from it. Okay, June 11th, 1976. So it does show that he was widowed. Okay, but that's him. That's all good and well. So, keep moving on. Obviously, I'm going to do a family history on him. Not going to sit here and discuss it. But he also comes from a sort of military family as well. Now, here's the other sister that was mentioned, Mary Ellen Casolaro. So this is her divorce record from when she got divorced from her husband, Mark Allen Spivak. And I found the birth announcement for her over here. And it is the Brooklyn Eagle, May 26, 1946. Dr. and Mrs. Joseph Daniel Casolaro announced the birth of a daughter, Mary Ellen. Dr. Casolaro, who was a resident in obstetrics at Methodist Hospital, entered the armed services on May 7th. All right, so that's all good and well. So his sister, in these FBI files, because I was trying to see what I could find on her, they had this really old newspaper, and it says it's from August 13th of 91, but I couldn't figure out exactly which publication. It says the Washington Times, but obviously these things get regurgitated in other newspapers, right? But she was going by Ellen at the time, and she said that she inspected her brother's house yesterday and was convinced that many documents were missing. There were a lot of documents, and they are not all here, she said. We just don't know where they went. However, Dr. Casolaro said he was not sure if anything was missing. Now, Dr. Casolaro is his brother. If you guys have seen the Netflix documentary, I believe his name is Tony or Anthony Casolaro, that's his brother. And that documentary kind of, in my opinion, if you've seen it, it does a bait and switch like every other documentary of this kind, where you're going along this trail of information and this storyline, and then it's just kind of chalked up to nothing, right? And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So now we are going to, and sorry, this is a lot of genealogy, kind of boring stuff here, guys, but I'm literally just taking you through this, and eventually it will circle into Michael Riconoscuito. But I'm going to show you guys the stuff with the family, because there are a lot of publications that show that Danny's parents were still together when they passed away. This is not true. This is not true at all. And the person that Danny's dad ends up marrying, she is very loosely connected, not loosely connected, but she ends up being connected to Iran-Contra. So I think that that's really weird. And I haven't seen this discussed. Granted, like, I'm not reading any blogs out here, but I'm just saying I haven't seen it discussed, and I just think that it's strange. So let's just run through it. I hate genealogy, Jay Mortis. It's a snooze fest, and honestly, it drives me nuts. So right here, this is the record of his parents' divorce. Francis Phyllis Biazol and Joseph D. Casolaro. Okay, so date of separation, 71, date of divorce, December 28th, 73. So over here, this is again the divorce date. There's mom, there's dad. Now, they did have an infant son that passed away, and this was the only listing that I could find. This was from March 29th of 1962. His name was Christopher John. He was a baby. And down here, mom, when she died, right? Francis P. Casolaro, spouse, Joseph D. Casolaro. That's kind of weird, right? I just showed you Christopher. I showed you Lisa already. We know about Danny. We just talked about Tony. And then there's Mary Ellen. They have the wrong last name there for her. And then down here is her parents, okay? So here's mom. This is what you will find in her obituary and on Find a Grave. Passed away on Sunday, June 25th, 2017, at her home in Dunn, Virginia. Beloved wife of the late Joseph D. Casolaro. Beloved mother, Not true. Not true. This is completely inaccurate. And right here, again, same thing. Beloved wife of the late Joseph D. Casolaro. This is not true. This is completely inaccurate. So obviously I went through, got all of the censuses that I could, right, from her parents, trying to follow her family to see if there's anything weird. Yes, very boring stuff, I know. Here are her parents, their petition for naturalization. They were from Naples, Italy, came to New York. I believe the date on that, I am going blind. 1923. Yeah, that's when they came over. It was 1923. So that's all good and well, right? There's dad. Okay. So here's Danny's dad. Here is Dr. Joseph D. Casolaro. This is the only photo that I could find of him. This is from Fordham University, 1939 in New York. Okay. So I have him as a kid. The first one when he's 9. 19, and then 29 years old. Okay. Now, here's his find a grave. Okay. Zoom in here. He died April 30th, 1982, at the age of 61. Right there, it lists Frances, Danny's mom, again, which is just really weird. So I went to look for this. I can't zoom in any further. So we see Joseph's name, we see Danny's name, we see Lisa, and we see baby Chris, right? I thought, well, maybe they, etched out that headstone previously, whatever. Not the case. So, right here, April 30th, 1982, I believe this is the Washington Post. Dr. Joseph D. Casolaro, 60, an obstetrician and gynecologist in Arlington, and a clinical professor at the Georgetown University Medical School until his retirement in 1975, died of leukemia April 30th at the University of Miami Hospital in Miami. Dr. Casolaro, who lived in Waterford, Virginia, had gone to Miami for treatment. A native of New York City, he graduated from Fordham University and earned his medical degree at the Long Island College of Medicine. He served in the Army in World War II and moved to the Washington area in 1947. In the 1960s, Dr. Casolaro helped found Bionetics, which specializes in cancer research. Let me wet my whistle, please. Goodness. Okay. The firm is now called Litton Bionetics. Dr. Casolaro was a member of the North Virginia Medical Society. He lived in McLean for many years and was active in fundraising for St. John's Catholic Church there. His marriage to Frances P. Casolaro ended in divorce. Survivors include his wife Ellen of Waterford and 5 children by his first marriage. List them off. That's good and well. So here, this is the newspaper obituary. May 1st, 1982. Lists that correctly. Survived by his wife Ellen. And his internment in Valhalla, New York. Right there. Valhalla is a hamlet and census-designated place within the town of Mount Pleasant in Westchester County, New York. And over here, Joseph Daniel Casolaro and Ellen Jean Hall, maiden name Gualtieri. That is their marriage record right there. So, now we know, great, he has another wife. So why is everything listing him as being married to Frances, right? I think that that's kind of weird. Let's go ahead. We'll come back to him. We'll come back to him. Let's go ahead and let's look at her. So, this is how I got down this path. I'm going to basically take you guys down this journey that I went on because I really lost my mind when I was going through this a couple months ago. So I decided to look up and see what came up in open corporates for dad, right? Because I was really curious because I was like, well, maybe it's not just, Litton Bionetics, right? So I find this 2 other companies, can't really find any record of them, right? But I find these 2 companies, and so obviously I'm going to look up his business partner, right? So, right here, the first one that I find is International Biomedical Services. Incorporation date, 24th of August, 1970. Dissolution, 1972. We've got dad right there, Joseph Casolaro, and B. Vandenberg Hall. That's a very interesting name, right? Kind of specific. And over here shows them both living in McLean. Okay, that's fine. Then I find another one. Dissolution by court order, founded 1970. Dissolution 1972. B. Vandenberg Hall, Joseph Casolaro. Okay, so I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I start looking into who he is. So this is him, Bernard Van Denberg Hall. I don't know how this thing has it, weird everywhere. I don't know if it's Vandenberg Hall, Van Denberg Hall. I have no idea. So I find this lady that he's married to, and I'm like, okay, well, it's kind of weird, right? Start looking into his family. These are his parents, Hall, right? Because that's technically the last name. I do an entire history on his whole family. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with it, okay? But I did. Again, family history. There you go. But then I come to the woman that was on the marriage certificate, Ellen Jean Gualtieri, right? That's the same name of the woman that Dr. Casolaro got married to after him and Francis got divorced, which is kind of weird, right? So, right here. This is the Daily Progress, October 19th, 1961. This is Dr. and Mrs. Thomas Gualtieri of Brooklyn, New York, have announced the engagement of their daughter, Ellen Jean, to B. Vandenberg Hall. She graduated from St. Agnes Seminary in New York and Mary Washington College. Her fiancé attended the University of Freiburg in Switzerland and was graduated from Georgetown. He received his law degree from the University of Georgia, where he was a member of Delta Theta Phi fraternity and the Jefferson Society, and he is employed in the tax division of the IRS in Washington, D.C. So, and here's all their other listings for them. That's great. So, they get married. That's kind of weird, right? I think it's kind of weird that they have a business together, Dr. Casolaro and B. Vandenberg Hall, and then they end up getting married, right? Obviously, something went down. And obviously, in my personal opinion, something, how did they meet? And what were they doing with those businesses, right? Because International Biomedical Services, Inc., that's interesting when we're thinking about the octopus, when we're thinking about Bionetics, and the other one, Valley Credit Corporation, there's nothing really out there for them. But this guy was married to Ellen when they started the business, and then Dr. Casolaro and her get together, right? So that's how I found her, and that's how I ended up going down this whole weird, rabbit trail. Now, let's go ahead and go back to Dad, because some people know, some people don't know. And again, I'm not really here to give a life story, but just to show some things about Dad. There's really not a lot about him out there, as far as in the newspapers. And, it seems that either he or Lytton itself tried to distance Dr. Casolaro from Bionetics, from Lytton Bionetics. And in my personal opinion, it does seem like, I don't know, did Danny find out that his dad was a part of the octopus? Because, that is the case. His dad was absolutely a part of it. So let's just look at some of the stuff in the papers. I've got some court hearings in here about problems with Lytton. So I thought that this one was kind of interesting over here. So 500 at dinner here, Coppers for Christ appeal by priest. So this was a second annual Missionhurst dinner sponsored by the Immaculate Heart of Mary Mission Guild. Over here, November 7th, 1954. So apparently Dr. Joseph D. Casolaro was the guild president, which here's why I think it's interesting. Because the Immaculate Heart of Mary Mission Society, Guild, because this is all one big umbrella, apparently Woodlawn, the 128-acre estate near Mount Vernon, which George Washington gave to his adopted daughter, this society said that they were going to forego the right to purchase the estate so that a newly formed foundation can maintain it as a public shrine. So it sounds like they're setting up a nonprofit to keep what I am assuming is probably like a spooky mound or something. That's what I think is going on here, because I've heard of Mount Vernon before and weird mound stuff. So that would track for me. I think it's weird that Dad is the guild president and there's no information out there about it at all. But over here, this is something that whoever is working on the Casolaro family tree, they were also looking into this. So, December 9th, 1947, insanity defense made for a GI. So it says special pleas of not guilty and temporary insanity were entered for Private Alfred Goings, 28, as the Fort George G. Meade soldier went to trial in Anne Arundel County Court today on charge of attacking a 6-year-old girl. Well, down here, I don't know if I can zoom in any further. It says, called to the stand by the state's attorney Marvin Anderson, Captain Joseph D. Casolaro of Fort Meade testified Goings was in a stupor when he arrived at the hospital for examination. Is it sus? I don't know. I'm not going to really sit here and debate it, okay? This was a weird letter about the new morality versus the old by Dr. Joseph Casolaro. The old morality dies for its country. The new morality objects conscientiously, of course. The old morality suits the flag. The new morality steps on it, perhaps even burns it. The old morality respects. The new morality disdains. The old morality looks clean. The new morality looks dirty. The old morality gives, the new morality takes, the old morality forbears, the new morality complains, the old morality works, the new morality loafs, the old morality believes, and the new morality rejects. Okay, so that's fine. Let's keep going. What I could find about his history, his work history, because there is nothing out there, he was involved in a lot of child health, which I think is kind of weird. But here, child guidance expert advises borough mothers. He speaks at this place, at this conference. This is from the Brooklyn Eagle, May 2nd, 1944. April 30th, 1944, Child Health Day to open at Losers. And this is problems of the school and adolescent child will be discussed at the Child Health Day program. There he is with Private H.W. Benoit Jr. That guy seems to be a bit more of a problem, but I'm not going to talk about him today. And right here, Joseph D. Casolaro, senior medical student at the Long Island College of Medicine, briefly discusses the physical defects of young girls applying for admission into vocational schools and commercial establishments, and points out the ways and means these defects could have been caught in the early years. Okay. I think that sounds a little bit eugenic-y, in my personal opinion. I get that might not be a popular take, but I'm good on all of that. Okay, I'm good on all of that. So we're going to look at 1, 2, 3, 2 more things, and then we're going to look at the Bionetics stuff because I really want to try to burn through this because this genealogy crap drives me insane. But it is relevant because I said that they came from Yonkers, right? So I got to show you that some of this family comes right out of Yonkers. So, right here. This is Mario Casolaro and Mrs. Frank Casolaro, Adele Casolaro, widow of Frank, former resident of Yonkers. So, this is the Casolaro side of the family, right? But apparently Mario Casolaro was a very well-known pianist and composer. Very well-known. Says he was an intimate of many well-known figures in the entertainment field. I have no idea who these people are. Don't judge me. And apparently he studied at the Royal Conservatory of Music in Naples. So he passed away in 1944. And over here is Mrs. Frank Casolaro. And she's in some weird Italian societies, whatever. And right here, Mario at one point owned the Jockey Tavern or had a license for the Jockey Tavern on Mount Vernon Avenue on October 1st of 1938. Okay, so the Casolaros are all up in Yonkers. Whatever. Now, this is another one of his sisters, Linda. This is kind of, I think, the only one that we haven't discussed. This is all I could really find about her. She got arrested for drunk driving in 1991. She went through a divorce, and that's that. Okay, so Bionetics, Lytton Bionetics, whatever you want to call it, right? If you know Danny's story, you know that Danny's looking into this stuff, right? This is where these things end up leading. Besides the BCCI, besides the cocaine and the weapon and the drugs, it also gets into these chemicals, this weird research that's going on. And this is what his dad was involved in. Okay. A lot of controversy around this stuff. I'm not going to sit here and read all of this crap. But, this family is a big deal. And his dad is a big deal. And I think it's really weird that dad ends up getting married to somebody who ends up being tied into Iran-Contra. I just think that that's very strange. But we'll get there. This is a book that I found called Cover Up and the Pesticide Conspiracy. And right here, talking about this is going on over in the UK, studies that are being conducted, as well as here in the States, about the carcinogenic properties of 2,4,5-T, the Agent Orange, and all these other defoliants that were being used in Vietnam. And that the Department of Health and Welfare and Education, they were aware. They knew exactly what was going on. This is stuff going on with the NIH, Department of Defense. And this is a court hearing that they had about it. October 12th, 1970. Harrison Welford, Lorraine Hubert, Judith Eads, the Children's Foundation, Friends of the Earth, Migrant Research Project, Environmental Action, and the Consumers Union against Clifford M. Hardin, Secretary of Agriculture. Okay? And again, talking about, there we go. Right here, Bionetics, under contract with the National Cancer Institute. They put a lockdown on a lot of these studies and the effects of this. And some people don't know this. I'm not assuming people's baseline knowledge. This is why I grabbed some of these things. Am I going to sit here and read all of it? No, absolutely not. However, they knew what was going on. They tried to limit the release of the results of these studies. And the fact that if you've seen photos from the things that we've done in Vietnam and the effects that it has had for many, many decades, then you know, right? We know that there are birth defects there. Yeah. So, and again, this is just a little bit more about pesticides, all of this stuff, giving a timeline breakdown of everything. Obviously, this stuff starts coming out in the press, right? Defoliants and birth defects. And the WHO conducts a study. The United Nations requested it. Yeah, well, they still didn't really come out with everything, right? We got to think about the time that this is going on. This is in 1970. What do we got going on, right? Obviously, Vietnam's going on, but the war's not over. Ain't nothing over yet, right? The fat lady hasn't sung, so to speak, just yet, right? So, thinking of all of that, putting yourself in Danny's shoes the best that you can. I didn't know the guy, right? But thinking about all of that, I would imagine that he was probably well aware that his dad was a part of the problem, right? And so I would imagine that that would probably be hard to accept and very disturbing. Yeah. Now, as far as the shell companies, thank you for pointing that out. I do not know what the shell companies that he made with Vandenberg Hall. Can't find anything about them. I have no idea. I wish that I did, because I would love to dig into it. But I want to show you guys a little bit about her family. We're not going to sit here and read it. However, her family is not just as sus, but I would say pretty sus, right? And then we are going to get into... I'll show you a little bit about what Vandenberg Hall ends up doing, and then we're going to get into her new husband, because, well, I mean, the guy that she ends up marrying that's tied into Iran-Contra, because it's all just real sus. So, let me get back to her slide. I'm going to look at the chat really quick before I pull this up. Hello, everybody. Hello, Seashore Mary and Maple Bob and Carl Legend Streener. and corn freak. Agent Orange use in Vietnam in the 60s. U.S. government was sued by the soldiers. My brother Joe died at a young age from pancreatic cancer. I'm so sorry, Seashore Mary. That's terrible. God. I mean, I've met Vietnam vets that, like, are still waiting. Straight up. Like, that angers me more than anything. And hello, Whack Beats. All right, so let's go ahead and let's keep going because we need to get to Michael Riconoscuito. Yeah, so let's go ahead and go. Okay, so this is her. Again, you guys have seen some of this, but they didn't really go like super public that she was getting married with Casolaro Gang Gang, AJ's life jacket. What's up? And hello, Bloody Cheetah. But that's her. She's a very beautiful woman. Very beautiful, right? And I do think it's interesting. She's into art. Yeah, this is November 14th, 1959. So that's all good and well. But here's that. Hey, imagine that. Insurance fraud. February 21st, 1936. Dr. Thomas Gualtieri, right? He was apparently it was a huge fraud ring. Apparently it was huge. And they were just running it all over the country and they made a lot of money, but they end up getting busted. And here, fake insurance roundup nets 16 Brooklynites, 2 doctors among prisoners held as members of $500,000 racket. That's a lot of green. That's a lot of dough back in 1936. I mean, shoot, that's a lot of money now, dog. Give me that. Now, I haven't been able to find much, but her dad was a part of this thing called the Prometheus Club, which I just thought was really weird, especially in the 30s. I was just like, okay, like I'm going to have to come back to that someday. It's not really important right now, but I just thought that was super strange. So, let's keep going. And here is his death record. Here is his draft card. I told you guys I did like a full history here. Okay, I got everything that I could. And then this, I believe, is her mom. It is. So this is Claudia. So she died in 2004 in Chapel Hill. And it gives her breakdown right there. She married Thomas Gualtieri. He was a physician. They lived together in Brooklyn. They had 4 children. Da 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 da. So that's all good and well. And right here, this is when she gets divorced from Bernard Vandenberg Hall. 71 was when they split. 72 was when the divorce was finalized. And just to show everybody that there was a record of them getting married right there, Joseph Daniel Casolaro. It's got the little receipt number for it. So, in the book Secret and Suppressed, Banned Ideas and Hidden History. Yes, this is from the publisher of Apocalypse Culture, aka Feral House. So, talking about Danny, right? Because again, I'm trying to keep everybody in the mindset of the bigger picture here and what's up with his dad's second wife and why are his parents' obituaries or find a graves listed incorrectly. For those that didn't know, Behold a Pale Horse was Danny Casolaro's idea. For those that didn't know. Yeah. I think it's kind of weird that maybe someone took that, but I just wanted to grab this and show you guys. That way you can see it. We're not going to sit here and read it. However, there is obviously mentions in this book about Mr. Michael Riconoscuito. Tales of intelligence agency infighting that may have contributed to George Bush's defeat, blah, 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 blah. Some people have strong feelings about, if Michael tells the truth at all, or if he's just full of garbage. I think that you kind of take it with a grain of salt, right? See what you can verify, see what you can't. But this is where this Behold a Pale Horse, Danny did it first. I would ask why someone steals the name, right? I would have a problem with that. But let's keep going. So, Vandenberg Hall dies. Great. This is what he did before he died. He was really big into divorced fathers' rights. He had the Fathers United group. He was a lawyer. First verdict of its kind, winning a lawsuit for emotional distress in a divorce from a wife keeping children from the husband. So this guy is kind of a big deal in his own way, not so much in the scheme of the octopus, the war machine, although some could argue that family court is a part of that and that it is weaponized in that way. I thought that it was interesting that that's what he was a part of. He was also deeply involved in this very strange Pelham Humphreys association and a very big dispute about oil profits. This involved a lot of genealogy. Not going to sit here and get into it, so don't ask me questions. However, I will go ahead and just pull this up. He was the lawyer representing the Humphreys estate. This has got Amoco, Mobil Oil, Phillips Petroleum, Texaco, and Chevron. A lot of weird stuff going on here, okay? A lot of weird stuff here. So, right here, let's go ahead and zoom in. Ellen Jean Casolaro in Florida. December 30th, 1983. Well, we know that Danny's dad died in Miami, right? Because he was getting cancer treatment. We read that in the obituary. She marries a man by the name of Leon B. Kelner. Okay? That is him. He was from New York as well. That is Stuyvesant High School, 1963. Okay? So, that's him. And over here, I believe this is his grandfather, Rabbi Kelner, I believe, born in Hungary and came to St. Louis in 1958 from New York City. I believe that that is his grandfather. I haven't done a full family history on him, but what does that matter? Well, it's because Mr. Kelner was more interesting to me. So Leon B. Kelner was the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. And is said at this point, March 17th, 1987, he was under heavy guard since federal intelligence agencies reported more than 2 weeks ago that a South American narcotics ring planned to kill him. Death threats against Mr. Kelner, who is the top federal law enforcement official in South Florida, are considered a very serious and sensitive matter. So this guy is directly involved in investigating Iran-Contra, right? Over here. Mr. Kelner's office has been active in the prosecution of several large drug rings. Last November, he announced indictments against leaders of a powerful and violent Colombian drug ring called the Medellin Cartel after the Colombian city in which it originated, smuggling 58 tons of cocaine. 58 tons of cocaine, right? And here, arms and drug deals with Contras probed, finding the CIA Contra and cocaine connection, right? Whoops, right here. I got butterfingers, dang it. Again, I'm not going to sit here and read all this because I'm not really focused on Iran-Contra, right? The Miami U.S. Attorney, Leon Kelner, reportedly told his assistant to sit on an investigation of the guns, the drugs, and John Hull. It would seem that Attorney General Meese was obstructing justice at a time when Oliver North was receiving FBI reports on his own network. The evidence that the North operation was busy drenching America with cocaine was too shocking for the Iran committees to probe, says Cockburn. Perhaps the truth is so shocking that it produces a collective refusal to accept it. Okay, see what I mean about him being involved in Iran-Contra? And there he is. Tuesday, May 24th, 1988, it took a military maneuver to get in and out of the front door, talking about this nonsense at court and him being threatened. Okay, so, am I saying that he was trafficking guns and drugs? No, but I'm not saying that he wasn't, right? Because we still don't know the truth about Iran-Contra. Countless people have died during this investigation, but right there, you have it. Yes, this absolutely ties into Gary Webb. Yeah. This ties into the Franklin scandal. This ties into everything. But I'm not going that way with it. However, don't you think it's kind of weird that Danny's dad dies and immediately the wife marries the Miami U.S. attorney involved in investigating Iran-Contra, who was accused of squandering some of the investigation to protect Oliver North and Meese? I think that that's extremely sus. This is just my opinion, but I think that it's really weird. And it makes me wonder, why is that why the Find a Graves and all of Francis's obituaries and the kids that have died, that's why it still lists the parents as being together? Because that looks really weird. It may not be. It may be a clerical error, but it also just seems blatantly false. There's Social Security death index records. So what's up with that? I think that it's weird. I think that there's a bigger reason for this, especially now that this much time has passed. This is just my opinion. Could mean something. It could mean nothing. Was he related to Carl August Kellner? That I do not know. I've got to come back and do a deeper family history on him. That's a good question. Like I said, I haven't come back and reorganized a lot of this, if you can't tell, right? But let's go ahead. I think I've got 2 more slides on this one, and then we're going to look at California. We're going back to California because, again, this was all started by his sister dying in Haight-Ashbury. So, right here, the Canadian Connection, 40 indicted, Fort Lauderdale News, July 21st, 1983, a major South Florida to Canada drug ring, whose members include individuals said to be prominent figures in organized crime, was broken up today as agents began rounding up 40 people indicted by a federal grand jury. And where is his name? Oh, yeah. The case was said to be dubbed Operation Birdman. I want to make the Birdman sound like, I can't do it. And it's tagged the case, the French-Canadian Connection. The focus of the investigation concerned the smuggling of illegal methaqualone between the U.S. and Canada. List all of the names there. And right there, Leon Kelner, a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Fort Lauderdale. There he is. And then right here, we got Meese. Okay, so. And then one more. This was a bit cleaner and a bit more recent, but, these people just love rewriting history or painting it in their favor, right? Leon Kelner, former U.S. attorney during high crime Miami Vice era, October 10th, 2021. Says that he was 75 years old. And that it gives their little history right there. Let's see. Where does it say? Right there. Ellen, who was a widow with 2 daughters, Elizabeth and Allison, when she met Leon soon after he moved from New York to Miami to work at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Okay. Apparently, he was raised by Jewish parents who escaped Nazi Germany and settled in New York, where he attended Stuyvesant High and SUNY Buffalo. And he graduated from Harvard Law School. Okay, so there he is. Talks about the cartels, all of that stuff. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen that podcast. She's done interviews. I haven't watched her, but I've seen her on interviews. Her name is Cookie something. She's tied in with all this stuff, with him specifically. I'm not going to sit here and get into it. However, I think it's weird that Danny's dad dies. She ends up just happening to meet him, and they get together. I would agree. This is hiding some sort of information. Marrying into protection. That's exactly what I think is going on here, Jay Mortis. I think that she was marrying into protection. None of this makes sense, especially the fact that these records do not list the information accurately. Because if you look at anything for her, she was never married to Casolaro. And isn't that kind of weird? I think it's super shady. It's just my opinion, though. Now, in regards to Mr. Michael Riconoscuito, because I know that some people have, there's people that I know who know him and have some like strong feelings about him and think that he's a good dude. A, I don't care. That's not really my problem. And B, mm, I think that good is debatable. Okay. I think it's very debatable. However, the undisputed or disputed, depends on who you ask, information is that, yeah, Michael Riconoscuito was absolutely in Haight Ashbury. He says this himself. It's not just T-Mo out here, you know, we telling tales outside of school. This is in Danny's files. Do I trust Ted Gunderson completely? Stuyvesant. Tom Dexter, is it Stuyvesant? Hello, Lufus Climate, sorry. And hello, Petit Penguin. Hopefully I said that right. I'm never going to say it right, guys. I'm never going to say anything right. I'm a hillbilly. You guys know I have feelings about Ted Gunderson. I think he's a bit of a limited hangout, right? It's Mr. COINTELPRO. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, though. You just don't. You can assess critically the information that is provided and kind of go from there, right? So, in regards to this angle, because I am proposing a theory, and it is just a theory, and I will probably never be able to prove it. We're going to look, not going to read through, but I do believe, and this is my opinion, that Michael Riconoscuito and the other individuals that he was involved with, who were manufacturing and selling drugs in Haight Ashbury, I believe that there is a connection to Danny Casolaro's sister's death. She does not take her husband's last name. She just up and leaves and goes to Haight Ashbury by herself. I get that a lot of people were doing that at the time, but she had just gotten married. She commits suicide with drugs. Okay. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I don't buy it one bit. So we're just going to take a glance at a couple of these pages here, because Michael talks about which one is it? The Equinox show with Kenneth Anger at the Straight Theater, because I did a family history on the guys that founded the Straight Theater, right? They're obviously very suspicious. But we know that Manson was hanging out there. We know the process was there, right? We know that all of these individuals were there, and obviously Kenneth Anger, because I think that he's someone that needs to be discussed more, obviously. But it's just a matter of making our way back to it, right? So this is from Danny's files. And obviously I was looking up the Resners because they are the ones who founded the Straight Theater. Okay. TG, Ted Gunderson, MR, Michael Riconoscuito. Discussing the LSD phenomenon. He's dropping names here and there. That's fine. But he's talking about the individuals that he met, including a Luther McDonald Green, Chet Helms, Ron Poulting, and the Resner brothers. Resner brothers did found the Straight Theater, talking about Bill Hand, David Freeze. And down here, just giving a bit more of a history. People are, putting acid in their ice cream. They're doing acid everywhere. Everybody's going nuts, right? So, that's fine. Let's keep going. Again, talking about the acid. 65, 66, talking about Sandos, right? Talking about Leary. Imagine that, yeah. This is why this is in my Brotherhood of Eternal Love PowerPoint, right? So, talking about the Straight Theater, Chet Helms, Bob Cohen. Here we go. Family Dog Enterprise. He's just sitting here name dropping everybody, okay? Peace and Freedom Party, Sexual Freedom League. I mean, y'all know that it was smelling different up in there, right? And he's talking about the Himalayan Academy. Obviously, the Himalayan Academy is very relevant, especially when we're talking about Kenneth Anger. not going to get too into it. But sitting there again, just discussing these things, I think it's hilarious that Gunderson's asking him if they're passing out communist literature. It makes him sound like such a boomer, however. But right here, are the Israelis aware of his involvement talking about Holbert? Okay, gonna move on, talking about all these people. I don't really care about this right now, okay? But right here, talking about in 67, he saw Kenneth Anger, Straight Theater, talking about the satanic sect, sexual aberrations. They're making movies, they're getting weird, right? That's fine. Talking about asking questions about the satanic cult, right? Talking about the satanic cult. Is it real? Is it not? Yeah, I don't know. That's up for you to decide. Some people don't think that Satanism is real. Okay. Not that enlightening. Go look it up in Danny's files. I'm not going to sit here and read all of it. This is to show you that this is stuff coming out of Michael's own mouth. And yes, I would say that Gunderson was a limited hangout in his own way. He's COINTELPRO, right? I have a hard time endorsing the idea that he's not possibly running a parallel operation. I have a really hard time with that. And yes, I would agree they definitely minimize Sherry Seymour's contribution. Yeah, well, you know, it's the Netflix is government propaganda, guys. I mean, that's my opinion, but I think that that is bore out by the information that is provided. I think that they lead you down a certain path, and that's it. I think it's weird that the guys that, you know, made that documentary talked to Tom O'Neill and met up with Tom O'Neill. Don't you think it would be kind of relevant to have that conversation with someone like Tom O'Neill, Mr. Limited Hangout himself, and ask questions about Danny's younger sister dying in Haight-Ashbury? But no one asked that question. And if they did, nobody talked about it publicly. And then you have to ask why. Because we know that Michael was there at the same time. So who's protecting Michael? Because obviously I think that that dude is being protected. I don't see how people even question that, quite frankly. But whatever. Let's go ahead and let's look at him real quick. That way we can move on. So I'm not even going to show the crap about his dad because right now I don't really care. This is a lot. But I was able to find some photos. 1 photo, 2 photos of him when he was young. That way you can see. Because again, is he involved in the bad acid that's going around in Haight-Ashbury? Why are the charges dropped? Why is he skirting all of these things? And I'm tired of the argument that it was a different time and that it was a smaller world, right? Smaller world. And so everybody's just everywhere. And I have to put myself in the context of the time. Okay, but how many ties do we have to have? Why didn't anybody ask Michael Riconoscuito in any of those documentaries about him being an informant watching Abigail Folger and Charles Manson in Haight-Ashbury? Don't you guys think that it's kind of weird that Danny Casolaro's sister overdosed on drugs in Haight-Ashbury at that time as well? Kind of weird, right? Kind of weird. But let's keep going because I'm tired of this. I don't like this guy, if you can't tell. So, this is him. Whoops. The News Tribune, 1965. Very, very young. Mike Riconoscuito, student scientist. He was a big deal. He was a big deal. Yeah. But very technologically savvy. Very good with, it says that he's well trained in thermonuclear physics. Very good with electronics. But he gets busted with his stepdad, which is also very interesting, making a lot of drugs. Making a lot of drugs, right? So, and here, this is 1973, says that his life was threatened. They describe him as an electronic genius and chemist without a portfolio who at 17 had aided a Stanford professor in research involving the effects of drugs on animals. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? I think it is. And, he said that he didn't want to make the drugs anymore, and he was being harassed by people from the Bay Area ever since he, quote unquote, escaped in 1968. Convenient timing, that 1968, but he does say that his harassers are people responsible for 14 murders. I think that that's very interesting. Because is he talking about the process? Is he talking about the family? Is he talking about one of the motorcycle gangs? Talking about Victor Wilde? Yeah, I don't know. Over here, verdict guilty for Riconoscuito. Manufacturing hallucinogenic drugs in several places, including an underwater laboratory. It's kind of weird, right? But I guess if you're that smart, you can figure it out. So, good for you. Here's more information. Charges end up getting dropped, right? Of course they do. Ends up getting dropped. So you do have to wonder why it was dropped. Obviously, I think it's because he probably went state's witness in one way or another, or he was involved with the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. In my personal opinion, I think that he was involved in the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. I think that he was involved in that entire drug line. Will I ever be able to prove it? I don't really know. Michael's still alive, so it's kind of impossible to get information on him. At least anything that is, accurate, right? Because I can only get so much from these newspapers. But they weren't just making LSD. They were making MDMA, PCP. What else is going on? We know that these drugs are going around this scene. He's talking about hanging out with Timothy Leary. And it's not just Leary. I'm talking about like the Merry Pranksters, Ken Kesey, all of these people, because we haven't talked about the Brotherhood in a really long time. But I fully believe that the lack of discussion about Danny's younger sister is because there's a very good likelihood that they were all running around in the same circles. Right? I think that that's strange. I just think that it's very bizarre. I think I'm going to leave that be because I'm not even going to show like the people that founded the Straight Theater. We'll do that another time because I want to pull up the files from Ed talking about this stuff because you can't tell me that it's not right. You just can't tell me that it's not right. People want to sit there and trash Maury, it's okay. Well, where'd you get your information? And why hasn't anybody asked Michael himself? He's still alive. The people that know him, the people that communicate with him now. Who is protecting him? And why are they protecting him? That's my question. So, Maury Terry, this is from Ed Sanders' archive, April 16th, 2002, called Maury Terry to fill him in on the meeting in Vegas and the trip to Paul Fitzgerald's archives in LA. I mentioned that I had spent all day today reading the new edition of The Ultimate Evil and found it well done and engrossing. I asked about the assertion on page 496 and 497. The Folger information comes from a reliable informant who knew both Folger and Manson. The source said he had dinner one night in 1967 with Manson, Folger, and two other individuals at a small seafood restaurant near Golden Gate Park, not far from the Haight. One of the others at the table was an aspiring actor and stuntman named Donald Shorty Shea. He later headed south to Los Angeles and found work at the Spawn Movie Ranch. That night in San Francisco, she loaned $10,000 to a small theater, and she had also given money to Charlie from time to time. Folger, Terry writes from the above source, invested in a surfboard shop in Encinitas near San Diego. And not long before the murders, about 6 weeks, she got involved in putting up some cash for a small recording studio. It's possible that Terry Melcher, who knew Manson as well, had a link into that studio. I asked Maury about the reliability of the above informant. He was the guy, he said, that he took with him to the DA regarding the Radin murder. He was the guy also who said that Abigail Folger contributed money to the Himalayan Academy. Maury said that the guy is in jail for manufacturing drugs, apparently a long term, but that he has proven accurate in his assertions. Page 497. Another source said that the $10,000 was to the Straight Theater, where the Equinox of the Gods performance in October of 1967 was held. Maury said, apparently referring to the first source on Shea, was associated with the Straight Theater, perhaps as a stage manager or production person. I mentioned how I was shooed at LAX having to place my black Converse All-Stars on a white plastic tray to have them scanned by the luggage machine. Ed, stay cool, my man. Stay cool forever. Black Converse All-Stars is the best. In the distance, two soldiers in berets with automatic rifles dangling down their sides on shoulder straps. April 17th, 2002. Spoke over the phone with Maury Terry. He called. He said a police officer had been at Terry's house today. He said that when Yonkers PD had reopened the Son of Sam case, the officer had contacted the FBI for data on the process. There was a single piece of paper. It was about Sirhan allegedly going to a process meeting just before RFK was killed. The names were blacked out as to the informant or informants. The Yonkers officer asked why it was blacked out, and the reply was that it was to protect sources. The officer said to Terry something like, "Didn't I give that to you?" He thought he had already given it to Terry. Upon my urging, Terry will try to get the FBI report. Another officer in 1996 went to DC and apparently was told most of the process files are in the RFK files. Terry said in February of 2000, Tom O'Neill said that Manson, with another inmate listening or participating, said in a phone conversation that Charlene Caffritz was a naval intelligence agent. Terry mentioned letters from Manson and the Hollywood Star, circa 89 or 90, that accused Polanski of making child porn movies to finance his career. I asked about the assertion that M met Filefot in Mill Valley. He said that his source, the same source as with whom he went to the DA on the Radin case, said that M met Filefot at the home of Bill and Hillel Resner in Mill Valley, and also at Leary's place in San Anselmo. Filefot had been invited to speak. Just an FYI, Filefot is a code name for the process. Reggie Williams was with Bill and Hillel and knew all the process people. Bill Knuckles was the guiding light and money man for Anger. He was in his 60s during those days. His source claimed to have been living with Melinda Moffat, the daughter of Francis Moffat, who wrote a society column. The source said Manson was backstage at the Straight Theater at Haight and Cole, threatening a girl with a knife, trying to get sex. Red-haired Chuck Hess pops up in NYC in the late 1970s at Uncle Charlie's Gay Bar. Info came from a pimp, re-drug dealing. Hess putatively handled money for Hell's Angels and drug manufacturers. Chuck Hess lived in Berkeley in 1969 and had a black Mercedes. He was tied in with Esalen. Okay, that evening sleuthed a bit on the internet for data on the Himalayan Institute or Himalayan Foundation and took a look at Charles Perry's book on the history of the hate, and voila! There was information on Bill and Hillel Resner and the Straight Theater. So, obviously, Ed's files, that's Ed's files, right? And thankfully he transcripted that. That way I didn't have to sit there and try to guess what he was saying. But let me pull up, because I'm almost done. I feel like this has been an extremely, extremely boring show, and I do apologize. But I've been meaning to get into this for quite some time, because again, this is just another tie to Yonkers. The reason why I wanted to do this now, just so you know my train of thought, because obviously I've been doing a lot of stuff, like a lot of research on the mafia, right? And that Westchester theater that I found, that there's a very famous photo of Frank Sinatra, because Frank Sinatra was being investigated for that too. That ties into a very interesting chemical company in Arizona and New Mexico. So I think that that's really interesting. That's all I'm saying. But in regards to this information about Chris Jetts, Chuck Hess, if you've read The Ultimate Evil, this tracks and is accurate for being Michael Riconoscuito. It is. This tracks. Which means that he knows who Bill Menser is, right? Yeah? Which means that he was tied up with the Hells Angels with the Esalen Institute. Which means that Michael Riconoscuito could verify Bill Menser's presence with the process. And he hasn't. But don't you think that it's super, super bizarre that someone from Promise was an informant in Haight-Ashbury watching Charles Manson and Abigail Folger, hanging out with Kenneth Anger? I don't understand like why this angle isn't talked about. Unless it was. And that's why the people that made the Netflix documentary met with Tom O'Neill so that they could decide who was going to talk about what, right? Don't you think that that's bizarre? I think that it's very strange. Again, I will say, it's always Scientology or the process that people don't want to talk about. I would implore the friends of Mr. Michael Riconoscuito, assuming he's still alive, if you have a soul or you want to do the right thing, ask him what's up. Ask him what's up. Ask him where Bill Menser was. Yeah? I would ask him where Bill Menser was. What was he doing with Mama Cass? Because Mama Cass was a Scientologist. But apparently her and Menser were real close. She was also real close with Krasner. So was Bill Menser a Scientologist too? I have a lot of questions about that. Ask your boy what was going on in Haight-Ashbury. Does he know what happened to Danny's sister? These are the questions that I have. Because if Michael Riconoscuito was there to watch Charles Manson, Abigail Folger, and Bill Menser, someone who everybody to this day, excuse my French, fucking insists did not know any of these people and was not related to any of this, I'm beginning to think that there's a bigger Scientology angle to all of this. Because Mama Cass was a Scientologist. She bragged about it. She bragged about it. So was Bill Menser a Scientologist? Is Michael Riconoscuito a Scientologist? I would argue he's a Processian. I obviously think that Bill Menser is a Processian, but people still have a really hard time delineating between these two topics, and so I have to specify certain things. So for this timeline, I'm asking, did Bill Menser join Scientology with Mama Cass? Or Jay Sebring's salon was wiretapped. Jay Sebring was also a Scientologist. What were they doing? And where was Bill Menser? AKA Manson 2. Because I don't necessarily think that he's Manson 2. But I do think that he knew Manson. I think that Michael Riconoscuito holds a lot of information here. But I'm going to look at the chat and then I'm going to leave it at that. Because I'm not going to sit here and digress. It is what it is. People aren't going to do anything. Right? I don't know what to tell you guys. Hello. Hi. Hello, AJ's Live Chat and Adrian, Tony C, MDH1970. I'm saying hello again, Mandy Diff. All hands on deck. And hello, Malaya Grimm and AP Gifts. I want specific answers. I know why. I know the why. I understand why. I want answers specifically to this. I want the specifics of why. I want to know why these people do not press these individuals. And I just don't understand how these people are taken seriously. I'm sorry. I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. It's just, this was a random rabbit hole that I went down, but it does go full circle. Sorry, I'm late. Can you start over? Shut up, Nathan. No, absolutely not. This has already gone way too long, and I feel like like snooze fest. Who's that? K-Gel Quav? I don't know who that is. I have no idea unless I'm reading that wrong, and I probably am. In relation to Trent Reznor? Who? MDH 1970. Who are you talking about? I mean, there is a tie. I mean, Trent, like 9 Inch Nails is Neo Process. I just would like to know. I really would. How many Processians are involved in this? How many Scientologists are involved in this? Because the whole angle with Mama Cass being a Scientologist, and then the possibility of Bill Menser being a Scientologist, that all just, I started thinking about that yesterday. I was like, well, that's kind of weird, right? But Michael Riconoscuito is just this looming black cloud. But if he says that he's there watching, and that's not just stuff that he told Maury. That's stuff that he was working on with Danny. Go look at Danny's files. Type in Reznor. That's why you asked Trent Reznor. Wow, that literally, I just answered my own question. Duh. Jesus. Go look up Reznor, Resner, in one quotation, straight theater. And it will pull up that interview that's from Danny's files. That's Ted Gunderson interviewing Michael Riconoscuito. That's not for Maury. Am I saying that everything he says is true? No, but I am saying that enough pieces of the puzzle, I believe, could be identified independently to at least paint a factual argument circumstantially. Because I do believe that there is a really deep, dark Scientology angle to all of this. Because that is the most consistent theme, and it is the one thing that Tom O'Neill will not fucking touch. Yeah? That's my issue. Is that Tom don't want to talk about it. Tom wants to move the goalpost. But I know that some of Mr. O'Neill's research team has been in contact with the head of the Office of Special Affairs. I've shown it. Maybe I'll bring that back up soon. Maybe we'll do that for Christmas. Maybe I'll show the emails unredacted. That way you guys can see. Yeah, how about that? Let me see. Dana, so sorry that I flooded your email. I just thought you wanted... Oh, no. Thank you so much, AP Gifts. You send great information. Some of it, I'm like, I don't even know where they're coming up with this stuff. But I set it aside, for later on. Because, yeah, I'm not taking requests for new topics. I'm trying to catch up on what I already have. This is something that I had been meaning to bring up for a long time. I had mentioned it. Had a thread on Twitter, but I don't want to just come on here and read my Twitter threads. Although I probably could have saved myself a lot of time and heartache, right? And it probably would have been a lot less painful. However, it's done. At least the information's out there, and you guys can see that it does all technically come full circle. Obviously, I've got to do a bit of a deeper dive on some of the other family members and seemingly disparate parties in this little group. And hello, Jenny Lee. And Shell Kuvali, a Zodiac suspect. Shell Kuvali. Tom Dexter, holla at me somewhere, because I don't know that name. I've like only been really deep in the Darlene Farron angle with Buzz, whatever his face is. So I'm curious because I don't think the Zodiac was one person. It doesn't make sense. I'm with you, Dana. It's always back to Scientology, aka the process. I mean, look at Tom Cruise. Why doesn't anyone ever ask him about the crimes of Scientology? They're all protected and they're hiding. My kids get so mad at my 6 degrees of Scientology. And why was a photo of Tally Rogers in the Ultimate Evil First Edition replaced with a photo of Bill Menser in the 1987 edition? Ooh, Nemesis in Hades. I'm gonna pop that up there for a minute. Let people see that. That way they can read it. Because Nemesis in Hades. Well, never mind. I'll contact you later. I don't want to. Anyways, I was gonna say something that I'm not gonna put out publicly. Let me see. The answer is the Chad meme captioned with yes. Hiding in plain sight and laughing at us. Are groups like the Process Church, Scientology actually different subsets of Thelema Agape Lodge? Well, I'm going to give you my opinion. And it is just my opinion. I think that Scientology and the Process are kind of like the cleanup crew. Just because, like, the Process had the blessing of the Vatican. And it seems that they also had the blessing of basically like the entire Department of Defense, I would say, like the war machine, as well as, like British nobility, black nobility, whatever you want to call it. I think that the Process was the cleanup crew. I think that the Four Gods were very strategic. I think that allowed them to kind of pull everybody in. That way they could do what they needed to do. Are some of their practices or their root theology in that? Sure. Absolutely. But I just would see that as more of like sort of factional stuff. Because I think that it's Scientology and then the Process. Because again, they can hide with their four gods. I don't see a lot of, and I'm not like blaming anybody. I just don't see a lot of people asking those questions about like, they're not just a satanic cult. Or, a Scientology cult. They also have their Jesus faction, their Jehovah faction, their Lucifer faction, the Satanic Temple. They're able to hide in so many different ways. I think that's very powerful. And then obviously the animal advocacy, right? That's their sort of bread and butter now with best friends. But I mean, these are the questions that I have. Because I think that there are other ties to still be made, obviously. And again, sorry if this was boring. I needed to get it out. I felt like a little, like a bug or a gnat that I couldn't get rid of, but I needed to get it out here, get it up. It's done. Won't have to come back to it for a while. And again, I would implore the people who are friends with Michael Riconoscuito, please ask him. Please ask him. What was Bill Menser doing in California? Please ask him. Was Michael a Scientologist? Was Bill Menser actually hanging out with Manson and Folger? Why would he say that he was there watching all three of them? Unless they were. What does he know? There's a lot of people out here that would like the answers to those questions. And there are very few people that still communicate with him. And the last question that I'll posit, because I think I'm going to show the book, maybe not the next time that we talk about this, but I am going to bring it up. Did Michael go to Rome? Did Michael Riconoscuito go to Rome? Because Peter Lavenda was in Rome. What is that other guy's name? Dang it, I can't even think of it. Damn it. It's that other really spooky guy. Crap. I know Peter Levenda was in Rome. Process. According to him, right? There was a lot of weird people in Rome. Right before the Manson murders. Right? What were they doing in Rome? Because I know what Timothy Wiley said that they were doing. And I know that Timothy Wiley finally, in one of his last books, stated that he believed that Marianne de Grimston had full protection from British intelligence. Did Michael Riconoscuito go to Rome, and did Bill Menser, aka Manson 2, go to Rome? Because I think that that would answer a lot of questions. Because it seems that a lot of this happened. I'm not saying it happened, in Vatican City, but I'm saying I think that a lot of this was ordained by the Vatican. Right? Because don't forget Reverend Arthur Gibson, who gave the process his blessing while he was training under the Vatican, was in Rome at the same time as well. So how many people need to be in Rome doing LSD and having sex orgies to make it a conspiracy, right? Who knows? But it would be fascinating if Bill Menser and Michael Riconoscuito were in Rome, right? I think that would tie everything together pretty well. I'll talk to you guys soon.